This Saturday is UFC Vegas 89, Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you a quick breakdown and prediction. And I know this isn't the best Apex card, but this card is substantially better than last week's card. Do me a favor, guys. I spent a lot of time researching these prediction videos, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Starting off with the very first fight of the night, a heavyweight matchup, Mohammed Usman versus Mick Parkin. This is a battle of very low-level heavyweights, and I'm going Mohammed Usman. You look at Mick Parkin. I understand he's undefeated 8-0, but he's beaten up Caio Machado, who belongs at light heavyweight. And even Machado had a little bit of success on the ground against Mick Parkin. Fight before that against Jamal Pogues, beat him from kind of range on the feet. But even Jamal Pogues was able to push him against the fence and kind of control him there. Mick Parkin isn't like this massively strong heavyweight where Mohammed Usman is. Mohammed Usman coming off a win over Jake Collier. Developed his jab seemingly in the second round and won the second and third after losing the first, mixing his grappling. Fight before that against Junior Tafa, won with his grappling basically. And then fight before that, brutally KO'd Zach Paunga. I just think in this matchup, Mick Parkin, he can be controlled against the fence. He's also very hittable. I think Mick Parkin's the better striker, but not by that much. And Usman has a massive power advantage. And also the threat of the takedowns from Usman is going to even out that striking much more. So I think Usman's really going to catch him on the chin in this fight. I'm going Mohammed Usman second round KO. And even if he doesn't, I think he outgrapples Mick Parkin. I think he's bigger. I think he's stronger. Mick Parkin, getting controlled up against the fence against Jamal Pogues. I think Mohammed Usman, basically that's his main strength is his clinch control. And I think Usman's getting better. I do think Usman's kind of old, but not really for the heavyweight division. He's 34 years old, going on 35. That's not bad for the heavyweight division. Mick Parkin's 28 years old. And, while neither one of them has fought great competition, Caio Machado, Jamal Pogues, a guy on Dana White's Contender Series, I just think, even though Mick Parkin's okay, he has decent ground game, I think the size of Mohammed Usman, the strength of Mohammed Usman, and the threat of the takedown from Mohammed Usman, where I don't think Parkin, even though he does have some grappling, I don't think he's going to be able to threaten the takedown against Usman. And then Usman has that KO power. Mick Parkin has absolutely no power at all. So I'm going Mohammed Usman, second round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Igor Severino versus André Lima, two undefeated guys. This is an absolute banger. This is a banger matchup. Both guys coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. And honestly, this is one of those fights that's super, super tough to pick. Severino has nasty power. He's 8-0, all 8 are via finishes. He mixes in some grappling, but he is kind of small, honestly. He has a fight on his resume that says it was at strawweight, but it says 125. So I don't know if that fight was, another organization was calling 125 strawweight, but he does look kind of undersized, even for flyweight. And then Lima, he looked decent in his Dana White's Contender Series performance. He won via decision there. And he's 25 years old, so I expect him to be a little bit better decision maker in there. And watching his fights, and I even watched some of his fights outside the organization, like against Igor Talon in his last fight before in LFA, I think he's a little bit more polished, and I think he's just a little bit more technical, where Severino just comes out. He's 20 years old, just looking for a finish, super aggressive. And he mixes in the grappling a little bit. He did it on his Dana White's Contender Series performance, and he beat the brakes off of Silva on Dana White's Contender Series. It was a nasty, nasty finish. I just think he's too aggressive. I don't trust his gas tank at that type of pressure and that type of pace. And I think Lima, even though he kind of plots forward, he throws nasty big shots. And he's defensively sound enough where I think he'll be able to avoid the big shots of Severino. So I'm going to go André Lima via decision. I think he gets it done via decision. I think this is going to be a banger fight. I could see one of these guys getting a finish, but I think they're both, undefeated. They've never been finished. They haven't taken a whole lot of damage throughout their careers. I think they're going to be able to withstand the punishment from each other. I see them both chopping each other's legs as well. They both have really good leg kicks, but I see Lima coming out on top. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. Moving up on the card, we have a women's MMA fight. We have Montserrat Rendon versus Daria Zheleznyakova. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce her last name. I heard it when I watched some of her fights, but either way, I'm just going to call her Daria. So we got Rendon versus Daria. Rendon, I kind of counted out in her UFC debut against Tamiris Vidal. She won that fight via split decision. And basically, she wants to grapple, but she has horrible striking. Her last 2 wins are via split decision. Even the fight against Brittany Cloudy a year and a half ago outside the organization, I thought she lost that fight. Then you have Daria coming off a win over Maria I don't even know how to pronounce her last name either, won via KO. Fight before that, lost to a 4-0 girl via ground and pound. Was winning the fight, kind of gassed out. You know, it's a striker versus grappler matchup. Rendon's going to want to grapple. Zheleznyakova, Daria, I'm butchering her last name. It's a horrible last name. She's going to want to strike. She has decent power. I don't trust her gas tank. You know, after getting finished by Melissa Tanya Mullins 2 fights ago, where she was dominating, then kind of just gassed out and got destroyed on the ground, I think Montserrat Rendon, you know, inexperienced, hasn't fought the best level of competition, but I think most likely her grappling will prevail in this fight. So I'm going to go Montserrat Rendon. I'm going to say second round KO. I think Daria is going to gas out in the first round again. I don't trust her cardio at all. And I see Rendon, you know, honestly, after Rendon's performance against Tamir's Vidal, who was bigger than her, stronger than her, had better striking, I'm just going to pick her against Daria, who literally got who got destroyed literally 1 fight ago against a girl who's 4-0, who I believe is now in the UFC herself. But either way, I'm going Rendon. I'm going to say she gets it done second round KO. I could see it being a decision where Rendon just kind of grinds her out second and third round with the grappling. I think the first round, I think if Daria wins, it's going to be like first round finish with her striking, because she is a much better striker. But Rendon knows what her strengths is, and she's going to try to grapple nonstop, clinch up nonstop. And, you know, I can't trust someone who literally has less than 1 round of cardio, essentially. Moving up on the card, we have Jarno Errens versus Steven. I forgot how to pronounce his name. I think it's Steven Nguyen. So it's Steven Nguyen versus Jarno Errens. This is an interesting matchup where, honestly, I don't think Errens is as bad as he looks. You know, he lost his last fight against So Choi, lost the fight before that against William Gomez. His last win was outside the organization, so he never had a win in the UFC. Steven Nguyen, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, win over AJ Cunningham. I believe he had multiple appearances on Dana White's Contender Series, 3 appearances on Dana White's Contender Series before he finally got a contract. I think he lost one, got like flying knee KO'd. Then he came back, won kind of a lackluster decision, didn't get a contract, then came back, finally won his last fight and got a contract. This is kind of striker versus grappler as well. Steven Nguyen's kind of a technical striker who isn't super defensively sound and has okay grappling. You have Jarno Errens, who's going to want to come out and grapple nonstop and look for takedowns. And he's not bad on the feet. I feel like he's improving on the feet over his last few performances. And it's not like he's getting brutally finished by a lot of these guys. But honestly, Steven Nguyen coming in on a 3-fight winning streak, not fighting the best level of competition. Last 2 fights were in Dana White's Contender Series. I just think he has decent enough grappling, decent enough takedown defense that he can win this fight. I think maybe Errens could win it, mixing in the grappling with the striking, coming upstairs, threatening the takedown, landing on the feet. But I just don't think his grappling is something super special, you know? He's shooting on takedowns against Solo Choi and kind of getting stuffed. I think Steven Nguyen, I think he's going to be able to stuff those takedowns. I think he'll be much better on the feet. He's a decent technical striker with decent power. But Errens is not a guy that's just getting chinned left and right. When he loses, he typically loses via decision. So I'm going to go Steven Nguyen to outstrike him to a decision win. And I'm going to go Steven Nguyen 30-27 decision. I don't think it's super close. I don't think it's like a complete blowout. But I think Steven Nguyen will just kind of pick him apart on the feet with like medium power shots, bust him up. You'll see Errens get some clinch control time up against the fence, but Nguyen will work out of the clinch. If he gets taken down, he'll scramble back to his feet. And I think he'll just win on the feet, and I think he'll win every single round. So I'm going Steven Nguyen, 30-27 decision. Moving up on the card, we have Miles Johns versus Cody Gibson. This is an interesting matchup. Miles Johns is just one of those wrestle boxers, really. He throws nasty power shots on the feet, and he has good grappling and wrestling, but his striking is actually horrible. He just kind of like throws these big power shots, big hooks, and then he threatens with his wrestling. He's coming off a no contest against Dan Argueta, which actually I don't even think is a no contest. I think he won that fight. I think Tapology has that wrong. I don't remember that being a no contest. Yeah, I don't think that's a no contest. So he beat Dan Argueta in his last fight. Tapology has an error here. Before that, beat Vince Morales. Before that, lost to John Castaneda. Got triangle choked there. Cody Gibson coming off the tough finale against Brad Katona, where he won the first round and then lost the second and third round. Brad Katona just came back, started, mixing in the grappling a little bit, landing more power shots. This is a tough fight to pick. But I do think Cody Gibson has decent enough takedown defense. He can stuff some of the takedowns of Miles Johns. And I think if Gibson can really push the pace similar to what he did against Brad Katona, I think he can win this fight. And he has excellent cardio. He didn't even wear down in the Brad Katona fight, and he threw so many shots. Like, I have no idea. I would love to see the stats on how many shots he threw in that fight because he was nonstop coming forward. Gibson is 36 years old, where Miles Johns is 29, so I do kind of question making this pick. But he looked decent on Dana White's not Dana White's Contender Series. Looked decent on The Ultimate Fighter, made it to the finales. I think Brad Katona is better than Miles Johns, and that was a close fight. So I'm going to go Gibson to get this done. I think Gibson's going to use his pressure, his volume, his pace, and I think he'll be able to stuff some of the takedowns of Miles Johns. And I think he'll be doing more damage. Johns will just shoot in on takedowns and just kind of shoot in on a double leg and just kind of chill up against the fence, where I think Gibson will make him pay for some of those opportunities with elbows to the side of the head, with some decent shots, just hammer fist to the side of the head, meanwhile stuffing the takedown. And Cody Gibson is just so gritty. He's so gritty, has good volume, has great stamina, and decent grappling, which is what he needs against Miles Johns. So I think if Miles Johns is able to land big power shots and mix in the wrestling, he can win, but I'm going Cody Gibson in this fight. I thought about picking Miles Johns just for being so much younger, and I think it's close enough. So typically when it's so close, I'm like, okay, what's their ages? But also, Cody Gibson has a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. I think he's the much better striker. I don't think he'll be that worried about the takedowns of Miles Johns. You look at Johns in his last fight, he struggled getting Dan Argueta down. He struggled getting him down. The fight before that against Vince Morales, I think I don't remember that. I just recently watched that fight, but I don't remember that fight that much. It's not like he's this guy that just ragdolling people to the ground, and he doesn't have the best entries either. So I'm going to go Cody Gibson to get it done. I'm going to say like a 29-28 decision win for Cody Gibson. Moving up on the card, we have Ricardo Ramos versus Julian Erosa. This is an interesting fight to pick here. You have Ramos coming off a loss against Charles Jourdain, where he ended up getting submitted after multiple kind of scrambles on the ground, almost got submitted early, almost found a Von Flue choke himself early, and then eventually just keeps flowing with Charles Jourdain, and Charles Jourdain finds a guillotine. Fight before that, brutal KO against Danny Chavez. And then you look at Julian Erosa, got absolutely destroyed by Fernando Padilla, and his last fight KO'd there, and before that got KO'd by Alex Caceres. His last win was a year and 5 months ago against Hadim Dawodu, just mixing in the striking and grappling against him. Julian Erosa is 34 years old, heading to 35 very shortly, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak, all via KO, both via KO. And Ramos, decently well-rounded, aggressive, has nasty power, likes to spin, uses a lot of spinning techniques, has good scrambles on the ground. And I think I'm watching Julian Erosa's fights, like most specifically against Padilla, which didn't last that long, and against Alex Caceres, and even against Hadim Dawodu, he looks kind of slow. And while maybe he can take Ramos down and control him a bit, and maybe, get some control time and win that way, I think Ramos is good enough scrambling and has good enough jiu-jitsu where he can get back up if Julian Erosa takes him down. And I think he has much more power, and I think he's much faster on the feet. And he's so kind of flashy and crazy. I just see him chinning Julian Erosa. So I'm going to go Ricardo Ramos. I'm going to say first round KO. I don't trust Julian Erosa's chin at this point. He's been KO'd brutally in his last 2 fights. He's the slower, older fighter here. I think he's a little bit more technical on the feet, but I don't think that's going to matter. I think he's going to be shooting takedowns. He shot against Hadim Dawodu. Dawodu was landing good on the feet against him. I think he's going to be shooting takedowns. I think Ramos is going to be throwing flashy techniques, and if Julian Erosa gets him down, I think he'll be able to scramble back to his feet. It's not like Julian Erosa has some world-class jiu-jitsu where he's definitely going to find a submission finish if he gets to the ground. So I'm going to go Ricardo Ramos. I'm going to say first round KO, highlight reel finish of Julian Erosa, and probably put Julian Erosa into retirement at this point, which is crazy because the win over Hadim Dawodu, people were like, oh, maybe Julian Erosa is kind of like an up-and-coming contender, maybe make the top 15, and now he's just fallen off a cliff since then. So I'm going Ramos, first round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Trey Ogden versus Kurt Holobaugh. I think Holobaugh is how you pronounce it. I butcher it every time. But this is actually a tough fight to pick. You got a 37-year-old versus a 34-year-old, 37 for Holobaugh. And Trey Ogden's like deceptively decent. He was about to finish Nicholas Mota in his last fight. It was a premature stoppage, but he was going to win that fight. It's kind of screwed him over a bit because of the stoppage. Before that, lost to Ignacio Bahamondes, which hasn't aged that well. And before that, I went over Daniel Zellhuber, which has aged quite well. But it's like Zellhuber wasn't pulling the trigger there. Kurt Holobaugh fought Austin Hubbard in his last fight, looked very good in the grappling, looked very good in the striking. Just a kind of a gritty brawler. And then the fight before that, some wins on the Ultimate Fighter. That was the Ultimate Fighter finale against Austin Hubbard. This is one of those fights where I feel like it could go either way. But Ogden just doesn't have amazing anything. He's not the greatest striker. I mean, his striking is actually pretty horrible, to be quite honest. He'll mix in the grappling, but he doesn't have great takedowns. Holobaugh can be kind of out-grappled and controlled a bit, but I don't think Trey Ogden's the guy to go out there and just wrestle him for 15 minutes. And Holobaugh literally has, good jiu-jitsu himself on the ground and a bunch of submissions. 10 out of his 20 wins are via submission. And multiple stints in the UFC. He's finally, got a win in the UFC. He's hoping to make a name for himself. And Trey Ogden also doesn't have good output, where Holobaugh can put out good volume, has decent striking, has decent grappling. He can get taken down in control. I think Trey Ogden will be testing his grappling in this fight. I'm going Holobaugh. I'm going to say Kurt Holobaugh gets it done. I'm going to say second round KO over Trey Ogden. I don't trust Trey Ogden. I don't, the win over Nicholas Mota, okay. Nicholas Mota came back and got a win recently, but Nicholas Mota's bottom of the barrel. Anasia Bahamondes didn't even look good in his last fight. And then a win over Daniel Zellhuber was a year and a half ago. How was that a year and a half ago already? But Daniel Zellhuber shit the bed in that fight. Daniel Zellhuber would whoop his ass badly in a fight today. And then before a loss against Jordan Levitt. So I think Kurt Holobaugh gets it done. I think he finishes him. I think he'll get taken down, controlled a little bit, but he'll scramble back to his feet, has excellent jiu-jitsu. I think he's going to catch him on the feet. I think he's the better striker. I think he wants to make the most of this opportunity in his late 30s, in this division, in the lower weight classes, at lightweight. It's just not easy to make, have any success when you're getting over the age of 35 in the lower weight classes. I think he wants to make the best of this. I think he gets a win over Trey Ogden. I think he finishes Trey Ogden in the second round. Moving up on the card, we have Luis Pajuelo versus Fernando Padilla. This is a banger of a matchup, to be quite honest. And Pajuelo, his last fight in FFC, that was one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen in my entire life. He beat this dude to death, and the dude had no mouthpiece. I'm sure he got broken teeth. It was such a bad beating. Then he came into Dana White's Contender Series, got a win over Robbie Ring, demolished him there as well. Then you have Fernando Padilla coming off a loss against Kyle Nelson. It's one of those matchups where I immediately lean Pajuelo, but then I'm watching his fights, and he's super aggressive. He's crazy looking for the finish. He's an absolute brawler. He's a finisher. He has 7 to 8 wins via finish. And the fight before Dana White's Contender, I could not believe the pace he put on that guy. That guy, he absolutely destroyed. Herbert Fedricio Pereira, I think is how I'm butchering these names today. But go back, and if you have Fight Pass, go back and watch that fight. That was insanity. So you have Fernando Padilla coming off the loss against Kyle Nelson, which he was expected to win that fight. I believe that was on UFC Noche. Then before that, KO Julian Erosa. Before that, win over in Fury FC. When I'm watching both these guys fight, I just feel like Pajuelo looks a little bit amateurish. And he has decent stamina. He has really good volume. He's super aggressive. I just feel like Padilla will be using the front kicks. I think he's going to be a little bit more patient. I think he's going to fight a little bit smarter. And I see him winning this fight. I see Pajuelo walking into a shot. So I'm going to go Padilla. I'm going to say second round KO. I think Pajuelo is going to be looking for an early finish. He's going to be looking to make a massive statement in his UFC debut. He fights crazy aggressively. And I just think this is a matchup where he's taken a step up in competition. I think Padilla is much better than a Robbie Ring. I think Padilla is much better than the guy he fought in FFC. And the guy he fought before that was 3-3. Before that, 5-2. And Padilla, I know he lost to Kyle Nelson, but Kyle Nelson's kind of low-key underrated. Has decent technical striking, decent kickboxer. I think Padilla is going to want to really get this win. I think he's going to, fight smart. I think he has good movement as well. I do think the Apex cage favors Pajuelo, but ultimately I'm going to go Fernando Padilla. I think he gets it done. I'm going to say second round KO. I think he's going to have to weather the storm in the first round, and Pajuelo actually has really good stamina. He showed it in that fight outside the UFC, but I just think Padilla is going to be a level of a step up that he's really going to realize, okay, I have to make these adjustments, like similar to what Justin Gaethje did in a way, where Justin Gaethje was fighting like a madman, ended up getting stopped a couple times, and he realized, okay, I have to cut back and fight a little bit smarter. And also, Pajuelo was taking a lot of leg kicks. I mean, Padilla takes a lot of leg kicks as well, so I think there'll be a good leg kick battle. But I think Padilla is going to be using the teep kicks, has really good teeps. We'll use the teep kicks to kind of keep distance. We'll be circling well. He'll just land the better shots, while Pajuelo is just looking for big, damaging combinations. And I think he's going to be whiffing on a lot of air. So I think Padilla catches him in the second round, finishes him with a big shot. I'm going Fernando Padilla, second round KO. Moving up on the card, we have Billy Quarantillo versus Youssef Zalal. This is a tough fight to pick. Youssef Zalal stepping in on short notice, but not really short notice, like a month's notice. I forgot who Billy Q was training for. I forgot that quick. But Billy Q, man, I know a lot of people really like Billy Q. but he's kind of a punching bag who's just always there, has good stamina, has good durability, and just finds a way to survive and then ends up beating you. He's getting taken down by Damon Jackson. Beaten up by Damon Jackson a little bit. He wins the fight. Before that, got brutally KO'd by Edson Barboza. Before that, whenever Alexander Hernandez was losing early, then came back and won. Youssef Zalal, this is the craziest story. So I was watching Youssef Zalal's fights, his recent fights outside the UFC. He used to be in the UFC a while ago. Even fought Ilia Topuria at one point. I think one of two people to take Ilia Topuria to a decision, Josh Emmett being the other one. But I was watching back some of his fights, and literally 2 fights ago, it was 2 fights ago, against a guy named Jake Childers. I'm watching this fight. I think it was on YouTube. And I'm like, damn, this looks like they're fighting at the Kentucky State Fair. And then I scroll down and find out where it was at. It's at the Arapahoe County Fairgrounds. He was fighting at the fairgrounds. So Youssef Zalal's fighting at the fairgrounds, man. But he was decent in the UFC, to be quite honest. He fought Blackshear too. I think it was a draw. He fought Ilia Topuria. I think he even might have took a round off of Ilia Topuria. Super well-rounded. Has good BJJ. I mean, Topuria looked to submit him multiple times. He was able to fend off the submission attempts. And he has decent striking. And he's pretty technical, where Billy Q has this kind of like awkward, herky-jerky fight style where he pressures forward and hopes that you run out of stamina. Zalal has good stamina. So I think Youssef Zalal is going to make the best of this opportunity. He's 27 years old, and he has a 5-inch reach advantage, where Billy Q is 35 years old. And, it's never good. Again, the lower weight classes, the older you get. So I'm going to go Youssef Zalal to get this done. I think Billy Q is going to try to grapple with little success. I think he's going to be outmatched on the feet. His striking on the feet is horrible. It's effective, but it's horrible. And I think Zalal gets it done. Zalal's going, 3 rounds with Ilia Topuria. Now we see how well that's aged. And I'm not elevating him like crazy off a loss. But on the ground, was able to kind of handle his own, scramble back to his feet. He was in some bad positions, but he avoided getting submitted. I don't think Billy Q is going to go out there and manhandle him on the ground. So I'm going to go Youssef Zalal to get it done. I'm going to say he wins this fight via decision. Maybe 29-28 decision. Billy Q has a really good gas tank. I could see him maybe coming on strong in the 3rd round, bloodied and battered, coming on strong in the 3rd round and stealing that round. But I think Youssef Zalal is overall the better fighter. I think Billy Q just kind of gets hyped up a bit because he's an exciting fighter. He got that massive step up against Edson Barboza, got KO'd. Got a step up against Shane Burgos, got lost that fight as well. So he hasn't every time he's gotten a step up. Not that this is considered a step up. Zalal fighting at the Kentucky State Fair prior to this. But I think Zalal is more skilled. He's younger. He's longer. And I just don't think Billy Q is going to be able to out-grapple him. I don't think he's going to be able to outstrike him unless Zalal's kind of fallen off because he's been fighting super low-level competition the last few years. I think Zalal makes the most of the short-notice return. I think he gets it done 29-28 over Billy Quarantillo. Moving up on the card, we have Peyton Talbot versus Cameron Simon. This is an interesting matchup. This is probably the most interesting fight on the card. And I believe, this is not the featured fight on the card. This should be the featured fight on the card. This is the battle of the young bantamweights. Cameron Simon lost his last fight against Christian Rodriguez. Not a horrible loss to have. Just got beat up on the feet and couldn't grapple him. I mean, Christian Rodriguez has good anti-wrestling, anti-grappling, good get-ups from the bottom. Peyton Talbot, coming off the win over Nick Aguirre, I think is how you pronounce his name, lost the 1st round, then came out and beat the brakes off of him and eventually found a submission later in the fight. Peyton Talbot has nasty power. He presses forward. He likes to showboat a little bit as well. I noticed that. I was watching some of his previous fights. I think it was against Reyes Cortez. He was doing flips against Christian Rivas. The fight before that was like taunting him, like dropped him and didn't even follow up on shots. I think Talbot's the much better striker, but he does kind of have a little bit of a deficiency in the grappling, and Cameron Simon does have good grappling. But look who Cameron Simon's beaten. He's beaten Terrence Mitchell. Literally, I mean, a special guest from the Alaska State Fair. Before that, a win over Amanda Martinez, and cheating nonstop in that fight. Eye pokes, nut shots. Same thing against Steven Kozglow. I think he even had an illegal knee in that fight. Grabbing the fence, groin shots, eye pokes. I don't even remember all the fouls from Cameron Simon. He got a point deduction in the Steven Kozglow fight. And I think that what this is going to come down to is, can Cameron Simon out-grapple Peyton Talbot? And I don't think he can. Cameron Simon's small. I think eventually he could go down to flyweight, to be quite honest. He's got the body of like a 13-year-old girl, where Peyton Talbot, big, muscular, strong, athletic. And I know Cameron Simon's athletic. I know he's probably decently strong. But when I'm looking at both their fights, I'm going back and forth watching fights. I'm like, man, Cameron Simon looks much smaller. And I think Simon's going to have to revolve on that, or rely on that grappling to win this fight. And even early in the Terrence Mitchell fight, Terrence Mitchell's out grappling him a little bit, taking him down. Now, Cameron Simon did reverse the position, ends up in a better position, and ends up winning the fight via finish in the first round, but that's Terrence Mitchell. That's hands down like one of the worst fighters in the UFC. Peyton Talbot, 25 years old, 5'10", 2-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage, great striker, has good power, a little bit unorthodox, a little bit flashy, where Cameron Simon's just kind of pretty technical, has decent grappling, has decent striking. I don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple him for 3 rounds, and I don't think he's going to be able to outstrike him. I think Peyton Talbot's the better striker. So I'm going to go Peyton Talbot to get it done via decision. I think he kind of busts Cameron Simon up on the feet. I think there'll be moments where Simon maybe gets his back on the ground or gets him down to a knee, has him up against the fence with like a body lock, controlling him a little bit. There might be like a close round or two. But I think ultimately Talbot just has far better striking. I think he'll land the more damaging shots. Cameron Simon is not like some big knockout threat either. I think Peyton Talbot will be able to absorb some shots from Cameron Simon. And I think Talbot has amazing power. I could see him even finishing Cameron Simon. And we've seen in his last fight against Christian Rodriguez, and I know Christian Rodriguez missed weight, but he had a lot of trouble holding him down. And Rodriguez was clearly the bigger fighter, but I think Talbot's the bigger fighter. I think Talbot will be the stronger fighter as well. And I don't think there's a massive skill deficiency in terms of the grappling for Talbot. So I think Talbot will scramble back to his feet when he gets taken down, go right back to the striking. I do worry Talbot does get a little bit crazy doing like flips when he gets a kick caught and looking to avoid the takedown. He does get a little bit crazy and flashy. It could cost him in this fight. But I think Talbot's going to be able to get it done over Cameron Simon. So I'm going to go Peyton Talbot. I'm going to say 30-27 decision win. Watching both their striking, I think Talbot's leaps and bounds better, and I don't think Simon can hold him down. I don't think he'll be able to hold him down for 3 rounds. So I'm going Peyton Talbot, 30-27 decision win. Maybe even a 29-28. Maybe Simon gets it done with a close, damaging round or in the striking and then a little bit of grappling control. But I'm going Talbot. Moving up on the card to the featured fight on the card, Edmen Shahbazyan versus AJ Dobson. This should be an easy pick. This should be a relatively easy pick, but honestly, it would not shock me if Edmen Shahbazyan shits the bed. I'm going Edmen Shahbazyan to get this done. I'm going to pick him to get it done via finish against AJ Dobson, but Edmen Shahbazyan's problem, his Achilles heel forever, has been his grappling and his takedown deficiencies and his cardio. He's lost 4 out of his last 5. Looked good against Anthony Hernandez early, Fluffy Hernandez. Obviously that guy's ranked now in the top 15. Edmen Shahbazyan looked good early, was winning early, landing on the feet, stuffing takedowns, but the pressure got to him. He wore down. Fight before that, beat Dolce Lungambula. That's bottom of the barrel. I don't even think he's in the UFC before. Fight before that, Nasruddin Imavov gets finished there, was looking good early, gets out-grappled and finished. Jack Hermanson looking good early, out-grappled late, gets finished. Same thing with Derek Brunson. AJ Dobson's coming off a win of Tafan Chukwi, who was a light heavyweight, massive, and he out-grappled him. And he didn't have the best grappling, but nonetheless, that's a massive, strong guy that he's holding down. Fight before that, Armen Petrosyan, who's a really good striker, was able to take him down and get a little bit of control time. Petrosyan typically scrambled back to his feet. Fight before that against Jacob Malkoun, who's a good grappler, had some okay success there, and then came off Dana White's Contender Series before that. I think Edmen Shahbazyan, it's do or die for him here. If he can't beat an AJ Dobson, then it's time for him to look for a new career. I really think Edmen Shahbazyan leaps and bounds the better striker, but Dobson does have okay striking. Dobson's going to be shooting in on takedowns nonstop in this fight, but I think Shahbazyan going to be able to stuff him. I don't think Dobson's smart enough to just shoot nonstop, and I don't even know if Dobson has the cardio to just nonstop wrestle, which is what you really need to do to wear Shahbazyan down and then find a finish later on, because Shahbazyan's cardio isn't that good. His striking is really good. I remember when Shahbazyan was like, I want to say it was like 5 years ago. So he was like 21 years old, head kick KOing Brad Tavares. And people thought he was the next big thing, and then kind of got exposed against Derek Brunson with his grappling. And ever since then, it's kind of been downhill. The only win against Dolce, which is, a highlight reel KO, but still. So I think he gets it done against AJ Dobson. I think he's going to be very reserved early because he realizes his cardio fails him nonstop. I'm going to say he catches him in the second round and KOs him. I'm going to go Edmen Shahbazyan, second round head kick KO. I think he wins this fight. I just find it hard to believe he's fallen off so much that he loses to AJ Dobson. But it would not shock me if AJ Dobson somehow just out-grapples him and finds a finish later in the fight. But I'm picking Edmen Shahbazyan to get it done. Far better striker, has been improving his takedown defense, and he has actually decent takedown defense when he's fresh. It's when he starts to get tired is when he really starts to get ragdolled. I think Dobson's going to try to strike with him. I think he's going to realize can't compete with him on the striking. He's going to start shooting takedowns, and he's not going to have a lot of success. And then he's going to get busted up on the feet and eventually get finished in the second round. So I'm going to Edmen Shahbazyan, second round TKO. Moving up on the card, co-main event, Carl Williams versus Justin Tafa. Ew, why is this co-main? Carl Williams co-main? Low-level heavyweight co-main? What is going on here? Why? Basically grappler versus striker. Carl Williams, he wants to just take you down and hold you down, but doesn't really have the best top control, doesn't have the most damaging ground and pound. Beat Chase Sherman, mixed in the grappling there. Beat Lucas Dresky, mixed in the grappling there. Coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. He's 34 years old, but not that old for heavyweight. Justin Tafa KO'd Austin Lane in the previous fight. I thought he was going to lose to Austin Lane, to be quite honest. The fight before that was the eye poke, and then the fight before that he KO'd Parker Porter, the GOAT. Fight before that, Harry Hunsucker. Fight before that, lost to Jarrett Vandera. Justin Tafa was really good in the first round with his striking and power, but his grappling is atrocious. But Carl Williams' striking is atrocious. This is a coin flip fight, in my opinion. Coin flip fight. But I think Carl Williams is going to get it done. I'm going to go Carl Williams in this fight. I think he gets it done via decision. I don't know if he really has the finishing ability, but I just think, especially after seeing Junior Tafa, who stepped in for Justin Tafa against Rogerio de Lima, getting ragdolled and bludgeoned on the feet as well. The Tafa brothers just don't have good takedown defense. They don't have good grappling defense. And Carl Williams is big, strong, and has good wrestling. And I think Tafa is going to be one of those guys, similar to Tai Tuivasa, where they get taken down, they're a fish out of water. We've seen it in the past. We've seen it in the past for him. And, he's beaten, this is just epitome of low-level heavyweights, to be quite honest. I would have rather seen Justin Tafa versus Mohammed Usman. That would have been a better fight, to be quite honest, and maybe Carl Williams versus Usman's opponent, who's now is escaping me. Why can't I think of this? Let me go back and actually look. Oh, Mick Parkin. I would have liked that. Carl Williams, Mick Parkin, Usman versus Tafa. But this is the co-main event. I'm going to go Carl Williams to get it done. I think he out-wrestles Justin Tafa. I think he takes him down, beats him up. First round's going to be nerve-wracking for Carl Williams. He might get clipped. Justin Tafa has nasty power. So if I was picking Tafa and I thought about picking him, I would say first round KO. But I think Carl Williams will be able to out-grapple him. I think he will be able to take him down. After the first round, when he really starts to sap some of that energy, I think Justin Tafa is going to kind of just get taken down once a round in the second and third round, get controlled a bit. I don't think he'll be able to scramble back up. I don't think he has the jiu-jitsu from bottom. I don't think he has the explosiveness from bottom in the second and third round to get up. First round, I think he'll be able to do it. Maybe he gets taken down, scrambles back to his feet, finds some shots on the feet. But I think Carl Williams will be able to get it done with his grappling. It's hard for me to pick a guy who lost to Jarrett Vandera. It's just, that's what it comes down to be quite honest. It's hard for me to pick a guy who lost to Jarrett Vandera. I'm going Carl Williams to get the decision. I'm going to say 30-27 decision, maybe 29-28 decision with Tafa getting the first round. But yeah, I think Carl Williams gets it done with his grappling. Moving up on the card, we have Amanda Ribas versus Rose Namajunas. This is at flyweight. This is an interesting matchup because neither one of these girls are true flyweights. They've kind of both fluctuated up and down. Amanda Ribas fought at strawweight before. Obviously, Rose Namajunas is a prior strawweight. I don't know why she went up. She had that horrible, atrocious fight against Carla Esparza, one of the worst performances I've seen in my entire life. She lost her title there, was arguably still champion because that wasn't even a real fight, and then decides, oh, you know what, I'm going to go up a weight class against Amanda Fiore. I don't know if Pat Barry is advising this. I don't know what's going on. She needs to find a way to get back down to strawweight, but at least in this matchup, where like against Amanda Fiore, who's a legit flyweight, in this matchup, Amanda Ribas doesn't have like a huge size advantage. But Rose before that, win over Weili Zhang, split decision. Win over KO head kick win over Weili Zhang before that. Before that, win over Jessica Andrade. Rose Namajunas has an amazing resume. She even finished Joanna Jędrzejczyk when Joanna Jędrzejczyk was like a heavy favored champion. I remember picking Rose Namajunas in that fight. Amanda Ribas trading wins and losses, beat Luana Pinheiro in her last fight, lost the first round. Pinheiro just gassed out, ends up losing the second and third and getting head kick KO'd, spinning wheel kick KO'd in the third round. Before that, Ribas got finished by Macy Barber, which honestly isn't that great, but I guess Macy Barber's arrived at this point, Dana White would probably say. Before that, a win over Viviana Araújo, which I believe was at strawweight, and before that, a loss against Caitlin Sermonara. But that was a while ago. Honestly, this matchup all depends on where Rose Namajunas is mentally. I don't trust her to be completely dialed in, but I just don't think she's fallen off enough that she loses to an Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas is just punching air, moving a lot, feinting a lot. She's primarily a grappler, but honestly doesn't even mix in her grappling. But that's her biggest strength is like her jiu-jitsu. But I think Rose has good enough defensive wrestling, offensive wrestling. She did well against Manon Fiore, better than I thought. She clearly lost, but I think she like broke her hand in that fight. So honestly, the fact that she didn't get completely bludgeoned by Manon Fiore, I think is a kind of a positive there, and she took some decent time off. I think Rose, way better striker than Amanda Ribas. I think has decent power. I just worry where her headspace is. But the fact she's beaten Weili Zhang twice, the fact that she has a win over Jessica Andrade, the fact that she beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk in her prime. And I know maybe this isn't the same Rose that she once was, but it's not like she's 35, 36. She's 31 years old. And it's now or never. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. If she wants to become a contender at flyweight, she has to win against Amanda Ribas. And Amanda Ribas' striking is straight up ass. All she does is punch air over and over and over again. And Rose has good cardio. I think Rose will have the better cardio in this fight. So I think Rose Namajunas is going to piece her up in this fight. I'm picking Rose to win. I thought about picking her via decision, but you know what? I think Rose's striking is so much superior to Amanda Ribas. I think she gets it done via finish. I'm going to go Rose Namajunas, 3rd round TKO. I just think she's so dynamic on the feet, has excellent head kicks. We saw it against Weili Zhang. Her hands are really good. She even landed a couple good shots against Amanda Fiore. And I know that's like really grasping, but you get my point. Amanda Fiore is a very good striker and much larger than Amanda Ribas. And a much better striker than Amanda Ribas. Amanda Fiore would absolutely destroy Amanda Ribas. So I think Ribas is just going to come out punching air, never really shooting on a takedown. If she does, Rose will stuff it. Rose has got good jiu-jitsu, good offensive wrestling, good defensive wrestling. And I just think she's the far superior striker. So I'm going Rose Namajunas, 3rd round TKO. I think Ribas is going to get touched up in this fight. Unless Rose is just completely washed and her mental state is completely gone and she's ready for retirement, I think she pieces up Amanda Ribas and gets her win at flyweight. I want to say first win at flyweight, but I think she might have fought there before, maybe gotten a win. But either way, get back on the winning track for Rose Namajunas, 3rd round TKO. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.